getting any major disruptions, we were encouraged to downsize the class. If they have like big classes, then they have to move in student partially online for the lecturing. But from this semester, there is no such arrangement because everything here is pretty normal. It's just that because I don't need to teach this semester, so I'm kind of stay away from the students. So we did even study meetings online. Yeah, but anyway, it's good that keeping me in check to prepare materials because yeah, as I mentioned during the earlier communication, actually my research topic for this sabbatical time is actually about sericulture. So, so it's nothing to do with fisheries, but still very interesting topic to undertake. So,
Okay.
and
Pak Zainal
yeah,
already come and Bu Mariana Sari, lecturer in cooperative fisheries
okay.
subject. Halo Pak
Uh-huh.
Zainal, Bu Mariana.
Okay. So, should we get started with the talk for today or?
Okay. Okay. I will open the session. Oh, I'm sorry. The mouse ran from me. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you everyone for joining the guest lecturer by Prof. Wen Chi Huang. The topic of this session is Case of Fishery Cooperative and Fishermen Association in Taiwan. I think about the curriculum vitae, we already famous with Professor Wen Chi Huang because the opening session, Bu Chandra already mentioned about that. And okay, in order to make it effective and efficient time, I like to give the chance to Professor Wen Chi Huang to present about the topic. Thank you. Yeah, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm not sure if my shared file is ready or not. Yes, yes. Okay. Lecture and seminar are different things, so I try to make the appearance a little bit different. So actually, we're talk about the cases of fishery cooperative and the fishermen's association, but actually my focal point is really on the fishermen's association. Next page, please. Well, this one can skip now. Everyone knows about it. So next page. Next page. Okay, the outline is actually because I have not really talked about fishery industry in Taiwan that much from the previous lectures. So I'm going to cover a little bit about it. And for Fishermen's Association is, there is a special act, government regulation on setting up the Fishermen's Association. So it has been a very important organization that the government is actually keep very keen eyes on this organization. So we're focused maybe, you know, more than 80% of time about the Fishermen's Association. Its formation is interesting stories about them. Okay, so actually, even though I say cases of the Fishermen Association, I would like to focusing on one particular local one, and of course, the other one is the national organization. And so for in comparison, the organization that cooperative or the fishers, other smaller organization are relatively, I wouldn't say unimportant, but it's really, as our focal point is really on the Fishermen's Association. So there are some of them, so I would like to talk about it. So it's like a note of other forms of fishers organizations. Okay, so next page, please. So about fisheries in Taiwan, actually, aside from the Fishermen's Association, we have a fishery law. I think your country also have that. But there are the other two is, of course, the Fishermen Association Act and the Cooperative Act, respectively governing the operation and supervision of the fishermen associations and the cooperative. But for the case of the cooperative, actually, because it's really under the Ministry of Interior, so the agriculture-related authority doesn't really have much to say about the cooperative act. So we don't really have a cultural cooperative act separated from the cooperative act independently. So this is a little bit background. Next page. So in terms of a government at the central government level, the most important government authority is actually the fishery agency. It's part of the agency under the Council of Agriculture. Okay, so of course it's pretty big. So I just jot down the divisions that are in charge of fishery affairs. Of course, for the planning division, you have all the planning going on about the fishing port and its management practices. It has its information management section in terms of sharing information with stakeholders, including fishers, retailers, and consumer, as well as the international collaboration requirement in terms of the sharing information for our far sea catchings. So in the planning division, they have this important fishing port engineering section, deciding on which port to enhancing the performance and which ones to change it. A few years back, actually, I was invited to be an inspector to look at the project commission to enhancing the port. So I actually visited with some auditor to go around the island to check out the ports. So if you have time, I will talk about it later. And of course, the second division that are related strongly to the fishery is about fishery regulations divisions. So it includes fishery resource management, the boat administrations and the crew administration, fishing village construction section, because this one is under the government rules or planning to making the rural areas, including the fishing villages, attractive to tourists. So we have a lot of new projects to try to revitalizing the rural scenery and infrastructure. And so part of the fishing village construction section is really about to make it more attractive to outsider. And of course, for the legal affairs section is under the regulation division to see if there is a need to revising all the and then the deep sea fishery division is sometimes we call it FASI because it's being operated international waters. So it's really has the international fishery affair sections that we, even though Taiwan is not part of the UN body, but we do have membership in the management of the deep sea fishery and do sign like MOU with other organizations. Okay, and in here we have this marine conservation section or in the international economic and trade section that are main component. It used to be the maybe the biggest one, but the the relative importance, of course, is still very important, but we are kind of try to focusing on aquaculture, as I mentioned last time. So the aquaculture fishery division has been gained a lot of attention from the locality, I mean the local people. So it has aquaculture section, and in particular the fishermen's organization section handles the affairs related to fishermen association, as well as the other organization of the fishers. Okay, and because it's really more attached with the local consumer, so that's why the seafood safety section is under the aquaculture fishery division, and under here we have a lot of certifications and for their marketing activities. So aside from that, the market and marketing section, even though it's not just handling aquacultural fishery, it also brought back the nearshore or offshore fishery product into the market, but the market and the marketing section is under this special division of the fishery agency. Okay. And of course, we have the deep sea fishery research and development one. It's for fisheries training and ship management. So Taiwan is island, but those people who work in the marine or fishery related field actually always commented by saying that because for a long time we are in a way at war with the Chinese, right? So we were actually advised not to go near to the seashore area, because those area would be either under the fishery requirement belong to the rights of the fishers, or belong to the military, right? So, so they said, oh, don't take pictures near the coastal area. When you go to the beach, you just go to beach, and don't take photo, don't do drawings, because you might be spying for our enemy. So we were at the, but of course it was decades ago, but nowadays we said, okay, we can use Google Map to map our old island. So there's not the issue anymore. But anyway, so the fishery related agency or marine affair related agency now want us to be closer to the coastal area. So they want us to take more interaction with the rural villages, and try to changing our fishery related industry into tourism related industry. So we'll see how interestingly it can get. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, now because we still need to talk about what is fishery value and volumes. So these statistics go back from 1959 to 2017. It's actually from the report of the fishery agency about the current fishery sector in Taiwan. You see that we are more or less facing a plateau since 1986. So it's really more focusing on maintaining the domestic requirement, as well as some part of the exportation activities. Okay, but basically it's not really growing as fast as in the 1960 to 80s. Okay, and you can see that they are fluctuating even more. The unit here is the 10 million NTD, so you need to do the conversion. I'm sorry, I did not really convert it myself, but this is just to show what is the trends. Okay, next page, please. And even though I say the the deep sea or distance or far sea is not well, because it was like 95%. So when you get down to like 54%, then we say, oh, it's not important anymore. So aquaculture is gaining more the ratio of production volumes. Okay, but most importantly is the unit price for the aquaculture product is more expensive. So people are willing to pay for higher prices for the aquaculture product. So on the right-hand side of the figure, you can see that actually, even though volume-wise, aquaculture only account for 28% of the total volume, but actually value-wise, it's 40%. So the distance water fishery, even though it still has more than half of the production volume, but the value-wise is down to 41%. And the offshore and coastal fishery, it's pretty fair in its value and volumes, but it's not really, it's more focusing on the local markets. So I would like to brought this out is because actually the fishery, Fishermen's Association, that the case I'm going to talk about, the exciting one, the interesting one is actually focusing on the offshore and the coastal fishery. So our, give this a little bit of hint here. So we'll talk about later. Next page, please. So, and in terms of the fishery policy and the council measures, actually the fishery agency said, okay, now our focal point is on three different but interlinked components. The first one is the environmental conservation. The second one is food security and safety related issues. It's under this grand umbrella. The third one is social stability. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these major directions, because the Farmers Association take part in here greatly. So I think it's important to know what is the background about this. Next page, please. So in terms of, I think this, there is an extra, environmental conservation is really about, we are worried about the overfishing issues, and so establishment of a mechanism for the conservation of the habitats and safeguard sustainability and balance of fishery resources become a very important thing. So in here, including artificial reefs and other things are being managed under this territory. The second one is the enhancement of management of marine fishery and fulfilling responsible fisheries. So by limiting the usable utensil and the gears, and we try to be the responsible organizations engaging in particular for international waters. But it also is embedded in part of our fishery rights in the offshore and the nearshore area. We also not only encourage, but I think through education and counseling, actually the local fishers, they are the one who are pretty much keen on try to make its local fishery resources sustainable. So we will see some of those cases later. So the third one is promoting conservation of marine living resources and bycatch species and protecting the balance of the marine ecosystem. This one is important one because, we do need to worry about the boycott and other banning of our fishery trades. So I think this is an important component in stated openly in the government's conservation effort. Next page, please. So for food security, I want to add that actually in here, it's not just about security, it's about the safety issues. So the enhancement of the safety system of seafood and increasing the diverse market channels of seafood. Diverse means that the actually in our marketing channel for the for FOSSI, there are designated fishery port to handle the or monitor the fish catch. So actually they need to report back where they got the fish. So I think with the satellite positioning system now, it's no longer an issue. So for example, one of those examples is that some of the students knows very well with our Pingtung area. We have Donggang Harbor, which is one of the famous deep sea, harbor. So for example, during the months of May to June, it's a season for the bluefin tuna. So actually, it make a big scene for the first catch of the year. So they were auctioning it out and always try to get the best of the year for the first catch. Okay. But actually, before they were allowed to be auctioned in the market, during the catchment, when they caught the fish, they actually need to report and say, okay, this is the location where we got it, and it's within the boundary of our fishery right, and is in line with the our membership in the major agreements. So that's one of those issues there. So the diverse market channels means that the well, I mentioned in earlier when we talk about marketings, actually, that consumers in Taiwan, we most cases we eat out, okay, for seafood, because we believe that the restaurant prepare much better fishery product preparations and the way we can cook at home. So, but we do have a lot of educational seafood preparation kind of classes too. But I think in the early years, it's an attractive for people who want to learn cooking. But nowadays they said, okay, we can entrusting these to the very nearby restaurant and get the best food. But still to be aware of the options of the produce is quite important, and how to make it easy for the consumer to prepare. Yeah, because we also want to educate the consumer by saying that the simple food is the best food. So anyway, so that's why they want to diversify the market channel for the seafood. And we'll talk about a little bit about the new trend and through some of the pictures. So it's better I do it later, okay? And the second one is to improve competitiveness of the industry and taking proactive promotion. This one is really about the issue that people are feeling that fishery is a hard work. Not only that you need to know the basics about management, but you need to read the sea chart, and you'll be able to make sure that you stays you are able to stable yourself on the fishing boat and all that. Okay, so it is less attractive. People want to stay inland on the solid ground, so they don't really like adventures into the oceans. So they want to make sure that we have the general public have a good understanding and experience of working in the fishery related sector. So there are promotional activities provided. For human resource development aspect, I'm not going to cover too much in today's lecture. I will leave it to next week, but The third one is active participation in international organization and enhancement of fisheries cooperation. Okay, next please. This is the last general item stated in the government policies for social stability. I think including some of the issues of research and development, and our encouraging more people engaging in the fishery research institute in universities and or even to vocational high school, focusing on fishery or marine affairs. So that we hope that our youngster can also engage in fishery related activities. The second one is upgrading of the function of fishing port and the promotion of recreational fishing. So it means that even you don't want to engage in the serious business of fishery, but we want to promote recreational fishing. We have set up tourism-based fishing ports for recreational fishery, and try to giving them a different fishing right, so that the easier for people who want to engage in the business of taking tourists into the oceans can do that. Okay, so we'll see how it also goes, because now our fishery sector rely heavily on the migrant worker to provide the first layer of the catchment work. So next page, please. Now it's the focal point about the Fishermen Association in Taiwan. In Taiwan, we actually have the two-tier system. One is the national Fishermen Association, and we have a 39 so-called district fishermen's associations. So the right-hand side is actually the map of Taiwan. So of course you can see that where are these fishermen's association? They are really concentrated in the south part. There are more of them, okay? In the north part is actually in the near to the Taipei area. We have a few. In the center and the east part is not as much. Okay, I think they have an issue of the fact that the natural harbors in the north and south are prominent. The south part is near to the Kaohsiung Harbor, and we have in Tainan the Anping Harbor, which is also a very important logistic point for our aquaculture product. When they export it, they actually need to send to the Tainan's Anping port, so that they have already established a good port for the activity. So in the south part, the Kaohsiung and Pingtung area, which is the south tip is Pingtung, but for Pingtung we already have like several fishermen's association. Like we just talk about Donggang, but actually we also have Linbian Fangliao Hanchen is where the national park is located, and the remote island of Liuqiu has a very interesting fishers association as well. So I think this is about the nature situation that making the Fishermen's Association has a particular concentration in particular areas. For the north part, because Keelung is a very famous deep water port, so near to it, we have several port there, and of course, our capital city is in Taipei in the north part. So it has some attractiveness to have a major consumer market there. So there still are interesting fishermen association that operate on those areas. So this is like a general picture. But in the interesting thing is that the middle of that island, of the island of Taiwan, it's landlocked. Okay, so there is no seaport around it, but actually the fish that appear in the middle of this landlocked county is because there is a famous lake there. So it's really based on that lake. It's a water reservoir for our power hydropower station, but it is still a very pretty lake. So next page, please. So according to the Fishermen Association Act, the Article 1 says that what is the Fishermen Association should do. So it should safeguard the fishermen's rights and interest. They should enhance fishermen's knowledge and skill. It should increase fishermen's profit from production. It should improve fishermen's livelihood. It should promote the modernization of fisheries and to seek development of fisheries. Well, some people said, why are you reading out the content of the act? Okay, because some people said law and regulation is written there for the sake of being there. Okay, but the interesting thing about the Taiwanese on this particular Fishermen Association Act or Farmers Association Act, they actually need to take care of every component of this article. And actually somewhere it says the government, if the fishermen cannot do some of these things, the government have to set aside a fund and budget to support in such activity. So the in those items, for example, enhancing fishermen's knowledge and the skill, we actually has requested that the Fishermen's Association, like Farmers Association, they need to set aside 62% of their profit in doing the education or extension functions, and the money has to be set aside for this purpose, to enhancing fishermen's knowledge and skill and engaging in some cultural activities for them. So so the beneficiaries are not just the fishermen directly. Sometimes the extension activity can engage the consumer group. So they can using some of those consumer education as part of the promotional, marketing activity, while under the umbrella of doing general improvement of the skill and knowledge. Okay, I think we'll talk a little bit more about this. Okay, so the Fishermen's Association, even though it's a non-profit organization, but it does have the economic businesses and the financial businesses, so that they can take care of the other part. Like, okay, in terms of increasing fishermen's profit and the productivity, as I mentioned, some can be done through education, some can be done through uplifting the sales channels and the markets or alternative markets, product processing and promotion activities, or even engaging in the cultural tourism or ecotourism of the fishery villages, so that the fishers and their family, okay, for those family members who are not doing fishing activity per se, they can engage in the tourism related business to run restaurant, seafood restaurant, and other souvenir shop, or providing guided tour for the customer or tourist to enjoy the different cultural aspect of the fishery villages. So, so actually the Article 1 is a very important one. And the English version of this one, the Fishermen Association Act is actually available from our the database of the Ministry of Justice. So it's open to everyone to download it. So if you want to get hold of the whole thing, you actually can go to a website and download the whole Fishermen Association Act. It was amended so many times, so I'm losing track of it. But this last version was passed in the 2016 November 30th. So it's pretty much up to date. Next page, please. Okay, and actually in Article 4, it lists out like 18 items, I think, of all kind of things there's a fishermen's associations is allowed to do. Because the thing is that if they do not write it there, then the fishermen associations cannot conduct the business. So the list probably started with 5 and grow into over the years. Even for the Farmers Association, we have a similar one, but it has like 21 items because there is, every time they feel that there is a new business needed, they want to amend the act. So it got included on the list so that they are not doing something illegal, okay? So anyway, so there are major business divisions or section in the Fishermen's Association at the national level as well as the district. District is really, the membership is fishermen, so they are the down to earth, the grassroots level. So they have at least 4 major components. The first one is administrative, so like fishery rights, fishermen's right. Fishery rights, I did not take too much time to talk about our fishery law, but actually the fishery right of each area in our exclusive economic zone, they are dividing the fishery right according to the different area. So if one person, if someone said, oh, I want to do fishing, and they have to get the right to do the fishery before they can take the boat and start doing something, okay? So it need to be applied, okay? You have to go through an application process as a company, as an individual. But it's more challenging if you are doing it just like an individual. So even though you are a fisher, so it's better that you can channel through the Fishermen's Association, then they can apply as a group. So they can jointly managing it. So that the individual small fisher doesn't need to apply to the central government the fishery right. They can channel through the Fishermen's Association to get their fishing rights. So become a member of the Fishermen's Association as a fisher is a very important thing. And because we do have a lot of other benefits to it, actually, that in each of the fishery household, the law actually says that only one member in the same household can be registered as the Fishermen's Association, okay, as the member, okay. And so the fisherman's right is there. There are, of course, some other administrative thing like a personnel and others, but the second one is about their economic business. So Fishermen's Association actually run fishery wholesale and retail markets. Supply, their supply department actually supply materials for the fisher, fishing gears and all that other kind of things. And they were run food processing, the fishery processing factories. They were prepare. They normally would have like ice making. I'm not sure the formal name for that. It's because to keep the fish fresh, you need ice, right? So before the ship heading for their catchment, they were stopped by to get their ice from the Fishermen's Association. so that they can preserve the fresh catch better. So that's the kind of services they provide to the fishermen. Okay, they run restaurant. Okay, they also run cultural tourism or ecotourism activity, as I mentioned before. But for restaurant, it's interesting because the restaurant run by Fishermen's Association and Farmers Association, they both get the same identifiable logo and a joint name. So even though they are running independently, but our central government, the Council of Agriculture, actually is promoting the restaurant run by Farmers Association and Fishermen's Association. Okay, but it's not really just one restaurant. It's a restaurant that normally run by the female member of the fishery or farming households. Okay, they called it the home economic group. In the past, the home economic groups, they work on home improvement. They study how to making beautifying their household, indoor decorations and all that. But over the years, you know, the women is very important in the fisher household. We, as I mentioned last time, while you asked this question about the gender balance issues, but the female members, well, traditionally, okay, I cannot deny it. They felt that they belong to the household to take care of everything else. Okay, basically everything else. Everything else means they need to take care of the child, young child. Okay, so farmers associations or fishermen association to encourage the women member of the household to engage outside businesses or to do some related food processing or retailing businesses. They need to help them take care of the young people in their household. So they actually will run like kindergarten or daycare facility for the young children. Okay, so that the labor engagement in the household can be increased. And actually, the government actually regularly review the performance of the general manager of the Fishermen's Association and whether they are running these extra services to help their member is one of the criteria for their good performance. But nowadays, aside from helping the young, they also need to take care of the elder member of the family. So now we have the daycare center for the elder member of the household. So, so now not only they care for the child, we have the daycare for the elderly, so that they can go to a center and they can meet friends, and they can have food together and all this kind of enjoyments. So, but for the restaurant business, as I said, it emerged from the home economic component. They actually educate the households to prepare food properly. So for these, I will talk about this restaurant a little bit more, but we call, basically it's like a rural restaurant, but when the food has to use the local ingredients, they have to be low in sodium, it has to be low in cholesterol or fat, and it has to be low in sugar. So, and high in fiber. So they are the like basic guiding principle. Low sodium, low fat, you know, low sugar and high fiber. And these are the three low, one high component they using as a guiding principle for preparing the food for this kind of restaurant. So the reason why the central government has this logo registered trademark jointly is they want tourists to look at look for this kind of restaurant and know that the food is being using local ingredient, it would have the local feature there, and it's easily recognizable. I think it has been in operation for more than 10 years. So people now are getting more aware of this kind of restaurant run by the local community. Okay. The third component is the financial business. One of the most important one is the credit department. The credit department is for savings and loans. Okay, so if the government has a special loan program to buy like fishery vessel and equipment, they have low interest rate loan program designed for the fishers. So, but fishery villages normally are located remote from the central downtown area. So, and their operational hour, I mean, the fishers operation hours is different from the other businesses. So having a credit department that's close by is a very important thing. Okay. Moreover, for the fishers do the near shore or offshore or even the deep sea catchments, when they drive the boat home to the harbor, to the wholesale markets, they automatically are the supplier of the wholesale market run by the Fishermen's Association. So the point that they have the bank account with the Fishermen's Association means that after the auction or selling their fishery product, the money will actually automatically transfer to their bank account through this credit department. So it's not the bank run separately, it's really a bank run by the Fishermen Association. And it's not just about the fisher, it's also about the buyer at the buyer at the wholesale market has to be registered with the Fishermen Association, saying that they actually need to have deposits with the credit department when they before they are allowed to go into the wholesale market to join as a buyer from the wholesale market, because they need to make sure that they have sufficient fund to be able to pay for what they are auctioning or buying for. Okay, so that's in terms of money transfer, it's very important. It become even more important during this year of the COVID-19 because the government actually had the they have this cash payments to the fishers in case they cannot get the product out to the market as highly profitable as before, because some restaurant decided that it's too dangerous for them to operate. The consumer doesn't want to go out, even though we did not really have lockdown. So their economic activity still got affected. So people are worried about, so how do they get the cash? So for those who have had the account with the Fishermen's Association in their credit department, they get a direct money transfer. They don't really need to bother with getting the money directly from the government, because that money will go directly to their bank account and they can use it. So even though the credit department is run independently from each Fishermen's Association, but they are jointly the supervising unit is the Agricultural Bank of Taiwan. So actually, all the ATM for money withdrawal, they can withdraw their money from any ATM machine. So it's really a link system. It's not really independent per se. It's just that their account is only affiliated with their own fishers association. The last one is about the social and education. I mentioned about the fishery extension services. It's about the fishers education, about home economics, and the 4-H crop is for the youngsters. So these are like the basic component for all the fishery and farmers association. They share a similar structure. So these are the activity they need to render. And the last, actually the fourth component is the one that they say, oh, you are the money spender, because as I mentioned, 62% of the profit that's generated from their other department need to be spent in here, okay? They need to spend it here, and plus some marketing and consumer education kind of activity. Next page, please. So this one I want to skip because there are 16 of them, so it's too long. Next page, please. Now, I would like to talk about marketing of the fishery products. The government actually started from 2008, I think. It's more than 10 years now. Okay. Joint promotion of product from fishermen and farmers association. We have more than 360 farmers association and this 60 fishers association. So since 2008, what the government did is actually they started to make it a competition for the fishermen and the farmers association to join in this competition for competing for the top 100 premium products that has already existing good packaging, good product, and good marketable potential. So they actually will join in this competition, and if they got selected as a 100 top 100, then the government will issue this catalog of actually they were be encouraged to join a product show at the end of the year for the coming years. Okay, so for example, listed here is the some of the Fishermen's Association that won the award. I have to say this because percentage-wise, we have more Farmers Association than Fishermen's Association. So out of this huge catalog, it used to be a catalog in print, then become a PDF file. And now this current version is actually ebook. So you can, I think I include somewhere, but you actually can search, it's a searchable ebook that you can browse it online or downloading the whole book to find out the products. Actually, this QR code, you can scan it from your phone and then get more detailed information on each of the produce. So for the 2020 to 2021, they used to do it annually, but then the whole evaluation or process is pretty long. So they said, okay, the preparation time is too long and it's too much pain. So so instead of doing it annually, since 4 years ago, they decided to do it for every 2 years. Okay, so the one that on this booklet is actually had the product show at the end of last year, and which means that this year there won't be new product show for the top 100 item from Farmer and the Fishermen's Association. And actually the 2020 to 2021 feature product has a little bit different component, because they now don't code it just from Fisher and Farmers Association. They said, okay, for young farmer and young fisher, they can also apply for this award. Okay, so these are the 8 farmers association in this region that got awarded. Because the reason I put it here is because one of the case that I'm going to talk about is actually come from these award-winning ones. Okay, it's a kind of a unfair, but actually on the right hand side picture, the picture that I show here, it's a product from the National Fishermen's Association. I said unfair because the national one is the top tier and they have much better resources. They run the most profitable fishery wholesale market near to Taipei City. So so it's kind of unfair, but anyway, because it's also a showcase. So I think that's the reason. Okay. I show here are these frozen fish product, but actually they have some other items such as the processed item or a snack item. So so being able to be selected at the top 100 is making the Fishermen Association very proud of themselves. So when the fishermen know that their Fishers Association got awarded, they are very happy to. So they are taking pride in being part of this important competition. Next page, please. And this one is really new one for this year. The Fishermen Association, they already started to engaging in e-commerce from for several years now. It's not very, it's like a supplementary, not the major businesses, but because in Taiwan, we have one of the highest, maybe top 3 convenience store intensity. The density here is very high. So as people are working, it's inconvenient for them to receive the fresh products at home. So all this e-commerce platform, they were collaborating with like 7-Eleven and other convenience store that they actually will deliver the product, the item that need to be frozen or keep refrigerated at the convenience store, and you can so when the buyer, they can just stop by the convenience store to get their produce. So it's almost like every street corner we have one. Actually, the total number of the convenience store we already reached to the 12,000, like per 2,000 person, you get one. Okay, so anyway, so it's really very nearby. Okay. So so this one are several, actually it's all that says they sell the fishery produce. Okay. Actually, a few of those, I'm sorry because their English version is not very, and because it's intended for our local buyer. So, but you can recognize some like the shape of the fish and the basically it reads that it's the fresh catch, or some reads that they are from the rural area. Okay, so these are the fishery products. But this one is special because the government set up this new e-commerce platform to include everyone. So individually, these individual logos are individual e-commerce website for Fishermen's Association or Farmers Association, or some of course are the general platform, or even e-supermarkets. Okay, so the government want those people who are afraid of going out to buy from outside can buy their product online and be safe at home. So they jointly sponsor, the government actually sponsored this website so that they can be linked together. It's run by, there is a link on the bottom, the source says actually the website is called Farmer by. CAS is a Certified Agricultural Standard. It's a standardization organization of Taiwan for agricultural products. So the government commissioned the CAS organization to run the joint e-platform for here. So they have like a lot of promotional activity to encourage people to buy more from this website. So like, but you get a discount of like 10% or because next week, I'm not afraid of our meeting November for November 11 because it's the most crazy e-commerce day of the year. So now they already started promoting it. So many item on their e-commerce website already said, okay, if you buy during the month of the November, in particular for the meeting the November 11 day, you get 11% discount, something like that. Okay, next page, please. Okay, and because as I mentioned, making sure that they have access to market is very important, and people are concerned about. And actually, even though the fishing right is pretty much distributed among different fishermen's association, but the registered fishing boat can sell their product in other ports. So as long as they register as a seller, they can sell it from that port. So it can be the case that the fishing boat felt that the price at their nearby harbor is a better price, then they might decide to sell from that port. Well, this one is not really so exciting per se. It's really also the link is more important because this is the website maintained by the government. I just did the search this morning. So it's a searchable platform for the market price. This one, I searched it from 2000 to 2019. It's this one is annual data, but actually they have daily data. They have product specific data. You can pick any particular producer, wholesale market or consumer sites, wholesale market to understand what is the price of the particular species of fish of a particular day or time, or you can even look at the trend of each individual markets. So anyway, so this is in Chinese, but it's a searchable engine, so you can always check for the prices. So actually for our fishermen, they will check it out. Our farmers also have another website established by the other agency for the food and agricultural administration. They have their own other website for the product, but it used to be very hard for me to get the price information because I get a zip file from each markets individually. Okay, but how to incorporate it? I'm very happy to see that they are no longer sharing this zip file from each of the fishery harbor. Instead, it's now it's a searchable database for you to get all the information. You can crop out any length of the year. It has the data since the 1960 something. Okay, so it's pretty comprehensive transaction data available. Okay, next page, please. And so because I think I am, yeah, I have less than 15 minutes left. So I'm going to talk about one of the interesting fishermen association. It's called Ziguan Fishermen Association. It's interesting because it has actually this one come from their website of the Fishermen's Association. But the bottom part of this slide is actually their e-platform. So they are also joining the previous page on the e-platform. But so for their e-commerce, they have the bottom part. For the promotion of the Fishermen Association, they have the upper part. So you can actually read it from the first, the upper part. Well, actually, it's a YouTube video, but I don't think we have time to run it. So, but it's the headquarters of the Fishermen's Association. The first half of, the website of the Fishermen's Association, you can see a lot of logo there. So they have been a winner for the top 100 premium boutique product for several times. They have well known for its product packaging design because they had won international competition like the Red Dots for several times. For the very creative packaging design for their product. They are part of OTOP, which is the one town, one product logo of our local SMEs, the small, medium size and enterprise of the promoted by the Ministry of Economic Affairs. So their product has been the certified agriculture product for many years. So they have this a few very famous international, like the Red Dots, the if is maybe some people will pay some attention to it. And they are also the first the headquarter office on the top picture is actually wholesale markets. Okay, the wholesale markets is the auction markets. So they are the first fishery wholesale market to obtain the tourism wholesale market status with a full HACCP feature. I will tell you a story. The first time I went to this Fishermen's Association was by accident. We were visiting in the same area, Farmers Association, because their Farmers Association nearby is famous for being the one of the modern vegetable production marketing, logistics centers in the area. So it's already been featured by so many stories. It so happened that one of the students who joined my study tour to the Farmers Association told me that her grandma lived nearby the Fishermen Association. She said, can we have like 5 minutes break when we stop over here, and then she can go home and say hi to her grandma. I said yes, because our group is like 10 people only, and most are foreign students. So we said, maybe I've never been to the Fishermen's Association in this town, so we can have a look at it. And then by accident, we met the general manager and the division chief for their extension service just in front of their outlet, the sales spot. We request them to take a photo for us, not knowing that we are requesting the CEO of the Fishermen Association to do the task. So they look at that very curiously, and of course we exchanged name card, and I found out my mistake of not recognizing this general manager. So they kindly toured us their wholesale market and all the their outlet restaurants. So we decided to make a different tour the next time. But I kind of seen their growth, because at the first visit, it was auction taking place, and we were invited to over to look at it from upstairs from the CEO's office. The second time we had the study tour, they took our student in and allowed them to go inside of the wholesale market and to check out how the wholesale goes on. But we were kind of being scolded by the person who are doing the buying and selling because we are kind of noisy and interrupted their tasks. So later on, they decided that since it's a very interesting thing for people to know how to, fishing boat come to the harbor and how were they able to finish like one boat load of item within like 20 minutes, very, very fast. So they decided that the complaint from their buyer and seller need to be acknowledged, and having tourists go inside interrupting the activity is not a good idea. So they remodel their wholesale market and have a full heads-up feature that we can. They now claim that their fishery product never touched ground. So when they were unloaded from the fishing vessel, they were all put into conveyor belt or boxes that they were never touch the ground. And for the bigger fish, they need to be processed. So their process factory is in the air-conditioned room to make sure that the temperature hold on the low enough degree. So it become featured tourism spots for people to enjoy seeing the auction to take place. They actually had the do the auction twice a day, one time during the noontime, and the other one is like 4:30 because it's really 4:30 p.m. because it's intended for selling to the restaurant. So they want everything to be fresh. So actually they had like 2 auction per day. So we can always arrange our activity ahead of time to have a look at it.
Pardon,
So
Professor.
yes,
I'm sorry. I just want to remind about the time.
yes,
We already 10 to 15.
yeah,
Uh-huh. And
uh-huh.
then maybe you can make it faster for your presentation because
Okay.
we already have 2 questions in the chat room. Okay,
Yeah.
the
But
time is
today is
yours.
for today is for 2 hours, right?
Yeah,
I still have like 45 minutes to go. So I will leave
45
like
minutes ago.
yeah, I will probably leave maybe 20 minutes for Q&A. So we'll see. I'm going to move very fast now because the cases can take long or short time to explain. Next page, please. So the feature, because it's located in the one of the biggest city, Kaohsiung City, it's focusing on the nearshore catchment. When you look at the number of their members, it's pretty small. It's only 6,000 something, and they own like 134 like bigger boat, and the 209 Champagne is really a very small flat boat. And they have 8 fishers teams. Okay, so in this particular one, it's as this has been covered when I talk about the Fishermen's Association. So this is a typical scenario that they run a wholesale fish market. They have a retail fish market that they don't really run the market, they manage the market, but they don't run it because basically they commission the seller to sell the fish in that market. It's called the tourism fish market, meaning that when the buyer went to their fresh items places, they can buy the fish, and then there is also privately owned restaurant inside of the tourism fish market that you can just get your fresh bought item to them, and they will cook for you in a very minimal price of just they said because it's fresh. So the best way to taste it is just to quickly water boil it or steam it. So and you can actually they also will make a suggestion on what is the best way to prepare the food. So actually it's a very attractive places for the consumers. And as I mentioned, because their first auction of the day happening at like 11:30, so the first item goes to the market just after that. Um, so their tourism retail market only operating since noon. Okay, so if you go there too early in the morning, you are not going to get anything. But this Fishermen's Association, they also run a retail shop outlet that sell all kinds of product from the frozen fillet and the frozen food, or even the processed food items that are ready to serve. They take care of the needs of the elder and the young people, that they make sure that all the bones and small, uneatable item were be removed, and making like porridge and other things designed by their seafood restaurant. I have here, Tian Mama is actually called the village lady in Chinese. It's a Mama is mother, okay? It's a village mother, okay? It's a mother's restaurant in a way. But these people are the home economic group who already went through the cooking training, and they get these entry level, at least entry level of the certification for being a certified chef. Because for the entry level of the chef certification, aside from demonstrate their ability to prepare food, actually they need to go for like 40 hours of sanitary training, food safety and sanitary training. So that's part of the basic requirement. So but once these people, it doesn't have to be ladies, it can be men. When they get the certification, if they don't want to be hired by the farmer or fishermen's association, they can run their own restaurant or food outlet with the certification, or being hired by some restaurant. They will be happily receiving those well-trained people. Okay, so I think that it's not just about economic business. I mentioned that the extension service for the Fishermen's Association is very important to make sure that aside from the business rendered by themselves, they also provide training for the members of the households. And the last item here, the feature is for financial business. I mentioned about credit department is for saving and loans. During the visit to the Zhuan Fishermen's Association, actually the general manager is very proud of saying that their credit department is very important component for them to make sure the wholesale auction, process goes smoothly. They said because they have sufficient fund to go around, so they said, okay, because everything now during the auction process, now they are using like, okay, electronic devices. So right after the auction take place, the fisher that sell the product at the wholesale from the when they unloading the fish stock from the fish from the boat, they can receive the fund within like 20 minutes. Okay, so the money will go actually not paying from the buyer, it's paid directly by the credit department to the account of the fisher who sold the product immediately. But they said they know that the buyer are also small businesses, the restaurant who are buying fresh from the market. And so they actually allow 3 days of payment from the buyer. So when they buy it, they sell in the retail market, the tourism market outside of the facility, or they run the restaurant, they still need to get the money, the cash from the customer. So they allow them 3 days to pay back because they have the like deposit with the credit department anyways, so they don't worry that they were taking the money and run. But at least this 3-day leverage time is good for the buyers. And for the seller, they don't need to wait for 3 days. They can immediately get the money. So they said this is giving the revolving fund is very important to make sure that the buyers has sufficient cash flow, and they are not rushed to needing to paying it on credit. And for seller, the fishermen, they are very tired. They want to, they can look at their bank account and see that the money is already with them. So it's very functional for Sichuan Farmers Association. And actually, in terms of the nearshore sales amount in the wholesale market, because it's relatively safer for their product. So it's really attracting a lot of outsiders to try to come to the wholesale market to sell. So it's not just this 6,000 or in a way the 100 or 300 boats that they have. Okay, it's a lot more people from outside are joining in to sell in this market. Next page, please. And I'm going to run very quickly now. I don't have picture in here, but to deal with the smallholder issue for aquaculture, because the Sichuan market is really for mainly for the fresh catch. But also for aquaculture product, they can also sell from there. So actually, not all the unloading things happening from the boat. They also need to unload from the trucks. So the aquaculture ponds operator, they were, or the production marketing group for aquaculture group will using trucks to make shipment to the wholesale market and also can sell from there. Actually, the production marketing group for fishery is not so new, because they were only encouraged to start in this kind of group since 2009. Unlike for farmers production marketing group, they have been in place for like at least 30 years. So, but for the fishermen, it's relatively smaller, because for fresh catch you don't need to have teams, right? But for aquaculture activity, because each fish pond is relatively small, so they needed a group to work together. So up to now, there are more than 200 groups formed in Taiwan. So this number is really not so big, because for farm-related product, we have like 6,000 groups already formed, and on average 20 members. So it's relatively much bigger. But for fishery, really aquaculture is really comparative to the fresh catch, is a relatively new component for the farmers association, for fishermen's association. So, but they are still engaging in this. But I would like to raise just one example. I don't have a picture here, but some student knows about Donggang. Donggang's Fishermen's Association has a very special production and marketing group on one particular shrimp. It's called the Sakura ebi. Sakura is Japanese for the cherry blossom. Ebi is a fish. So the Sakura ebi is a kind of very tiny shrimp that grows like 30 to 40 meters below sea level. So there are only known globally 3 locations that grows this Sakura ebi. One is in Japan. I think it's the harbor near to the Shizuoka area. So actually it was the Japanese who appreciated and named this item. It's called sakura. It's because like the Japanese like to enjoy the cherry blossom festival in early spring, because the petal of the cherry flower will drop from the tree. So they were enjoying this fallen petals of the sakura. For the sakura ebi is for the diver, when they found first found this kind of shrimp, they were flying in the water like the petal of the cherry blossom. So that's how it got the name. Okay, so but because it's only available in the south part, only the Donggang area. So in order the not to overfishing it, they had the exclusive fishery right for this particular production marketing group. So they were study the amount of the reproductivity of these sakura shrimp, and then they were decide on which part of the year that they are not allowed to fish it. It's they were written in the statement and governed jointly by the team member. And they were informed, the team members, they have several boats, so they were informed the member about how much quantity is allowed to be catched. So they basically formed monopoly system. So they were offered to the local markets, special channels only. So anyway, so they also need to educate the consumer that there is a need for protecting the sakura shrimps population. So that's why they come up with this shipping, fishing catchment period and the quantity to be catched. And well, then the price of the sakura shrimp actually got increased. And so the income level of the fisher group actually were protected. So it's creating a win-win situation for this, for protecting the habitat. And this example has been shared by other groups in their region. And they said, okay, we have other kind of fishery resources also needed such protection. So I think it's has been a very good experience of seeing this coming. Okay, next page, please. Okay. So for fishery cooperatives, when we look at the Fishermen's Association, it was established during the Japanese colonial time. So some of the Fishermen's Association has more than 100 years of history. But during that time, they were actually fishery cooperatives and the fishers vocational like union. Okay, so they are combining the fishery cooperative with fishers organization together to form the Fishermen's Association. So in a way, the Fishermen's Association is an all-purpose, is a multiple purpose fishery cooperatives. Because even though, as I mentioned, even though it says that because it's an association, so it's not for profit, but they still have the economic business. So the economic business component actually came from the fishery cooperatives back into their history. So which make the fishery cooperative a single purpose fishery cooperative that engage only in the production and marketing activities, not so attractive compared with the all-purpose full functional fishermen's association. But we still have some fishery producer group decided that the production marketing group is a temporary organization. They want something economic organization. Then they will form into the fishery cooperative. but the number of registered fishery cooperative is very small. It's like less than 10. So that's why I decided maybe it's not so interesting to look at their story that much. So, but because some people said, oh, okay, actually the Fishermen's Association, even though by the name it's an association, but actually it's just a multiple purpose cooperatives. So maybe in a way, this has to do with our government structure. When you are a cooperative, you belong to Ministry of Interior. So the fish so the industry specific organizations such as the Ministry of Agriculture has feel that they cannot do much about it. So they want everything under their umbrella. So they hope that the fishermen associations is being so attractive, so they can be part of the game. I forgot to mention that we talk about the quality department, but actually for Fishermen's Association, it also have the insurance division. The insurance division is a government commission social insurance for fisher and farmers. They comprehensively cover everything. So from birth to death, okay, so even for funeral services, they have been covered. So it's life insurance plus the industry insurance. Of course, for Taiwanese, everyone is covered by the health insurance. So, but before we have a full coverage for everyone, the fisher and farmers are the first ones covered under the government's social insurance scheme. So some people, you know, during this period, they wanted to be member of the Fisher and Farmers Association, even they are too old to do major fishery activity. But now I think it's back to normal because even without that, you can be fully covered. But the thing is that when they cover through the Fishermen's Association, the Fishermen Association will pay partially to covering the insurance fees that they need to pay. So that's why people like to be joining the team. But of course, there is a requirement saying that one household, just one person can be eligible to be the member. So this is just my my note about the fishery cooperatives. Next page. Yeah, just so I'm ending as I promised. So for more information, if you want to check it out, actually the fishery agency has full information on most of the information. And for the National Fishermen's Association, unfortunately, their website is all in Chinese, so I cannot do too much about it. The second information is that the for Dr. Hu Xinhua, when he wrote this Change and Development of Taiwan Fishermen's Association, he was the deputy minister of the Ministry of Agriculture in Taiwan, so in charge of fishery affairs. So he has been in the fishery agency for a long, long time. So even sometimes jokingly that he was kind of the director general for a long time. People only knew his position from there. But later on, of course, he became the deputy minister and then now retired from the government post. But he has a long, he wrote many books about fisheries in Taiwan. So, but unfortunately, this one is also in Chinese only. The abstract is in English, but if you can have access of it, it had archived historical description about the Fishermen Association from the early times. So I'm not, yeah, the information about the colonial Japanese times description came from his paper. And for the cooperative related description, actually the Ministry of Interior, they have a center for cooperatives covering agriculture cooperative and other cooperatives. So if anyone want to, yeah, you can check out their website. They have also a description about the cooperatives in Taiwan. They have the statistics and other descriptions. So for the Fishermen's Association Acts, I already included in the slide, but it was last modified in 2016, so it's relatively pretty new. So if you want to have more information, you can get from these sources. I'm done with my messages. Okay, so I'm now welcoming any question that you might have. So thank you very much for your attention.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. That
Yes.
is very interesting presentation and so complete from you for us about the agriculture, about the fisheries, even though the fisheries agency is under the agriculture division in Taiwan. That is very, very, how to say, they care about the fishermen so much. That is very, very nice. Okay, Professor, we have two questions,
Yes.
actually three, but about the question first is from Mr. Eddie Susilo. Mr. Eddie, would you like to unmute
Yep.
your, okay, and you can ask directly to Professor.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry for joining late because
Okay, no
the
problem.
other ceremony. Okay. In my opinion, when Professor Huang said the social stability, so in
Yes.
my opinion, it's the social conflict, social conflict. And now we have three type of the social conflict: the government and society, on the between countries like this in Indonesia and Australia, and
Yes.
other between user resources, fishermen on other maybe a tourism and so on. And we have next step or next six step for the analyze. The first, the location and the area coverage of the conflict, and we have to the who parties and involved and in the three of the root of a problem, and what the process to conflict, and the five the resolution conflict, and six the existing condition. So I would like to know how the management conflicts of the fisheries agency make a role to resolution of the conflict in the Taiwan, because in Indonesia conflict is the bigger and not finished yet. Thank you, Prof. Huang. It's
Okay.
clear or
Yeah,
you
I think
not clear? Okay, who are you?
of course you are the expert in this field. So I want to just in the description, actually, that the conflict actually had the one, because we have it used to be the Farsi is the main source of fishery harvests. So our conflict actually sometimes come from the boundary of the domain of operation from our fishing vessel into maybe the exclusive economic zone, or whether it's really belong to the open sea or not. Okay. For example, in Taiwan, we do have a problem with the Philippines because on the bordering places, because when you draw the 200 nautic miles of exclusive zone, then from our remote islands, okay, then it definitely will overlap with the Filipinos' exclusive economic zone. Okay, so the issue need to bring to the international conflict resolution, because there is an issue of how do you define your territorial waters. I think that is an unresolved issue. And another one is our remote island of Mazu and Kinmen. It's really very near to the Chinese mainland. Okay, so even for the 12 nautic miles of this exclusive zone, it's already on the land of our counterpart. So they agree that they will draw in the middle. So it's only 6 nautical miles. So what happened recently is that all the boats were surrounding our islands in our remote area. It's not for fishery. It's actually they are gathering sand for construction purposes. But because people get so scared in the island because the whole island got surrounded by hundreds of boats. So it's not fishery, but still about the resources. So that part we need to resort to international negotiations. So we do, our fishery agency has to send representative to talk with the Japanese about our conflict with the northern territory to Philippines, and I'm not sure about this detail of their negotiations, so I'm not probably the best people to talk about it. Internally, of course, when the fishery vessel goes out, okay, we draw the boundary of fishery rights, but how, what if they cross the border? Okay, so I think, but nowadays our fishery boats are being monitored by our through GPS. So actually, the territorial crossing is now an evidence, not an excuse. So I think internally we are using this monitoring system because basically every boat is being monitored. Okay, so for the near shore area, so for our domestic vessels, so that part I think is less problematic because they were honored these fishing right issues. We did have so recently we don't really hear any major conflicting with the fishing vessel inside of our territorial water. We do have a problem with mainlander try to crossing the border and try to catch it, or sometimes it's not for catchment, it's really for getting the sand. So I mean, so I hope my quick answer is resolving the question being raised. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much,
Perfect.
Prof.
Okay. So clear, Pak Edi?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. Okay. Professor Pak Edi is the chief of our department. I already
Yes.
introduced him to you. Next.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I met before. Happy to see you.
And then we go to the other question from Pak Zainal Abidin. Pak
Yes.
Zainal, would you like to unmute your microphone?
Okay, thank you, Wahyu.
You're welcome.
Okay, Professor. Good morning, Professor.
Mm-hmm.
Have you fine today?
Yeah, I'm fine. And actually, I was reading your typings, right? So you were
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, many points. Huh? The first is about the Fishermen Association and the Fisher Cooperative in Taiwan. Well, they do not have the same organization and role because why? Because the Fishermen Association, as I say, it's already have more than 100 years of history converting from single-purpose cooperative and credit department into the same region to one authority. And even though the fishery cooperatives, they can establish as an individual business, but because our cooperative law actually says that if you have more than 7 people who are doing the same business and in this particular domain, you can establish a cooperative. But the government doesn't give them the same rights as the Fishermen Association, which can resolve conflict among the members or give credit and loans and doing all these promotion activities at the under the government sponsorship, or doing extension funding if they, well, we were talking optimistically about Fishermen Association being making profit, so they can use 72% of their profit for doing extension work. But there might be some Fishermen Association are not doing so well. So what if they cannot render this service to the member? Actually, in those cases, they can ask for funding from the government to sponsor their extension educational activity, because that's an important service. They are for the, the best performing one, they can act upon it in replacing of the government's role. But if they cannot do it, the government still need to do it. But cooperatives is a private business. They don't have the obligation to serve into anything other than their own cooperative member. Okay, so that's the huge difference right there. So scale-wise, cooperative, as I say, if you have 7 people, you can form it. Even like the Ziguan's Fishermen's Association is regarded as a small one, but they still have like 6,000 members, and like more than 10,000 fishers working under the boat. So so it's a huge difference. So the second question is the role of a fishermen's association related to ecotourism, fish marketing, financial business, about credit department. Okay, is there any study about cooperative role in Taiwan in relationship with fishermen welfare, food security, business performance? Unfortunately, no, because as I mentioned, there are only a handful of cooperative left, and they are pretty new, and they are more focusing on aquaculture. So basically, they are not comparable in Taiwanese setting. But still, some people define the Farmers Association said, okay, because they are in spirit a multiple purpose cooperative. So some people will still put it in the cooperative category, even though the name doesn't suggest it. During when I attended several international meetings regarding to this, we found out that actually they said, okay, you don't need to care. You don't need to care about the names. You should look at their spirits. So Farmers, Farmers Association in Taiwan, we said, oh, it's a multiple purpose cooperative because the government give it's a particular role on that. And when you look at some European organizations, they are also the same. The cooperative becomes so big, it's a multinational company. Okay, they said, okay, they still call themselves cooperative, but it's really a company. And even they have, like the one I visited in Belgium, this huge one actually had they have bank, but the bank is an international bank. Okay, so yeah, so I think sometimes we say, okay, but they still adhere to a cooperative spirit, even though it's written in the act that when you have this particular law written by the government, of course, it's really being approved by our legislator. It gives them a special status for making sure that they have sufficient government support for this kind of activity. So I think that's a little bit different. I think it's really different from each country's context. So for Taiwan, this kind of fishermen's association and farmers association, I would say that they help the government a lot. They save a lot of money for the governments to making a lot of public administrative affairs. Like even for the credit department, as I mentioned, that it's saving and the loan. Okay, but the loan actually doesn't come directly from the Fishermen Association's own savings. Actually, they are just agent for the government for their loan programs. So it means that when the government had the subsidy for the interest subsidy for the loans, the money actually comes from the government directly. But then you don't need to rely on the commercial banks from the area. They said, okay, commercial banks don't like to operate in rural area. They said, it's very far. and it's too expensive for them to operating on it. So if you have an organization that are so close home and provide service so directly to the fisher, they are very happy to be taking part in there. We did have a problem with the banking unit about 20 years ago, so they need to go for a reform. So during that time, some commercial bank actually get the branches from the fisher and farmers organization, but they find it very difficult to operating it because the credit departments in fisher and farmers organization, they actually operate at different hours. Commercial bank runs from 9 to 3:30. They won't open early or close down later. But for the Fishermen's Association, the Farmers Association, they need to be considerate of the operating hours of these people. I went to one of these Farmers Association at 7:30 in the morning for like checking their extension service. I found out that their banking unit already opened. I said, how come 7:30? The most of the commercial bank at only open at 9. The reason they are saying is that because that particular Farmers Association runs a morning retail market that the farmer will bring their product to market at like 5 in the morning. And by 7, they finish most of the selling. So they want to deposit the money to their banking units and go home. They don't want to wait until 9 o'clock to have the money being deposited. So anyway, so I think that's like unusual, but this kind of service during the time when the e-commerce or online financing is not so common, you still need some people there. And so that's what happened. Okay. Do you have the third question? I think.
I think it's enough, Professor.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we don't have any question anymore, right? So yeah, we are done. But of course, if anyone who has a question, you can still process it for me, and maybe I can answer it later. You know, so. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to talk about the very special organization in Taiwan, which is Fishermen's Associations. It has been inheriting a lot of different stages of its initiation. Like in the very first time is because it's actually part of the Japanese colonial time. They want to make sure that they can manage the resources better. So they form an organization as such. And so in more recent times, the government still feel that with a direct channel, when you talk about fishermen, how can I find the fishermen? They will go to the Fishermen Association and said, please find them for me. So they will have like direct dialogue with fisher, but they don't go to the fishing boat and the dialogue with them. They go to the Fishermen's Association, and then they will gather people that you can making dialogue and making their voice being heard. So it's, yeah, the government supervising on the operationalization of the organization, they give awards. So it make the fishermen feel attached to this kind of organization, and because they are full functional.
Okay.
Okay.
Professor,
thank you.
May I have question?
Okay, no problem.
Well, I go to Tongkang with Mr. Cheng. Do you know Mr. Cheng?
Mr.
The government employee already live in India for many years and then go back to Taiwan. Your student too.
Okay.
Okay.
You mean Professor Chen's the advisee, right?
No,
the one who...
government employer, Mr. Cheng. Siapa Pak Zainal nama lengkapnya?
Sorry, I forget also. Yeah, we call Mr. Cheng.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Um,
In a fishery agency, I think he is employee on there.
Yeah, I think it's a fishery research institution or something. Is that the one?
No, as a white collar.
Uh-huh.
I think. Okay, next
Okay.
time I will explain. When I go to Tongkang, I saw a lot of Indonesian people out there
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
worker.
Migrant worker. Yeah.
How to save their life as a worker in social capital or something in social insurance. I mean, okay, that is my main point.
Mm-hmm.
How
Well,
to handle them.
okay. Actually, at the section, I talk about the government policy for social stability. Actually, there is a particular corridor on dealing with the migrant worker issue because for fishermen's association, the precondition is that they have to be a citizen of Taiwan. So foreign labor are not allowed to join in fishermen's association. So it means that they need to join in their own like labor union or something. And so we do have care groups that care about the status of the migrant worker and the labor issue about their safety, sanitary, and some conflict resolvement of their issues. I think we still need some effort onto it. I think last year I saw Woos and Andy has a paper talking about the migrant workers association they want to establish in there. So I needed their update about what are the
Okay.
development, but
So
yeah.
so depend the owner of the ship, right?
No, actually, we do have
Okay, too.
the labor, our labor department actually handle the immigrant
Oh, I see.
labor issue. So they still need to abide by like a basic rule, like, okay, they still, for example, like their vacation, their worker right, they have a special law governing it. For example,
Okay.
the employer need to pay them in accordance with their job performance, but they also abided by our minimum wage. So they
Okay.
cannot pay less than our minimum wage. So in a way, it's a minimum requirement. They
Okay.
need to, yeah, also secure their living condition and all this kind of thing. They will be inspected on that. Yeah.
Okay. That is, I mean, I didn't mention about the other division, about other department or something else. Okay,
Yeah.
labor division, right?
Yeah.
Professor, there is a question from Abdul Kolik. He asks you, can we share the PowerPoint or PDF of PowerPoint?
Well, actually, for this one, because I taken a lot of picture from the government publication, so I did not really get their permission on using it. So maybe not much. If you remove this picture, that's okay.
Okay.
The links you can use, but I think the picture maybe it's not a good idea because I did not really produce it myself. So it's came from their websites, even though I have a citation, but sometimes they have complained about using this kind of thing. So I can clean up for you.
Okay.
And then maybe you can then share it. Okay,
Okay,
so
thank you
not
so
the
much,
rock thing.
Professor.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Okay. Actually, about the time is up.
Yeah, it's
Thank you very much.
12:01.
Yes, well,
So we'll
that's
have
very interesting. Very interesting presentation. So complete. We can how to say, we can understand about the system in Taiwan, about the how fishermen association in Indonesia. We have to under the Kementerian Kelautan, uh, Marine and Fisheries uh, Ministry.
Mhm.
We have
Okay.
ministry. But I think even though the fisheries agency in Taiwan is under the agriculture division, they do a lot of for fishermen. I already opened the link that you already
Okay.
sent.
So
And
yeah, maybe you can give them those links. So then don't worry
okay.
about my PowerPoint. It's I think they are very useful one. Like the general introduction of from the fishery agency. They have a lot of rich material that can be used. From the, of course, Farm Fishermen's Association, they normally operated in the domain of Taiwan, so they don't really create an English website. So it will be a little bit more challenging to understand what's been going on there. But our
But
fishery,
don't worry, Professor. In Mandarins, we can go to
you can
the
Google translate
Google
it.
Translate.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right. That's right. Yes, yes, yes. But some,
okay.
yeah, okay.
Okay, about the time, I'm so sorry. I must to finish this session. And
Yes.
Bu Chandra, what next? We must to take picture or
Yeah. Okay.
Pak Agus, Bu Niken?
Yes. Yeah. Take picture.
Okay, take
Ya,
picture
siap.
together and then I will send to you, Professor.
Okay.
A
Okay.
lot of.
A lot of.
Oke, baik. Untuk sesi pertama, untuk slide yang pertama, oh ya, sebelumnya mohon maaf, bagi peserta silakan dinyalakan kameranya. Please turn
All
on the
attendants,
camera.
would you like to turn on the camera, video? Okay, the time is yours, Pak ADS, Pak Agus Dwis. Monggo.
Oke, siap. Baik, untuk slide yang pertama, saya hitung 1, 2, 3. Oke, next slide. Saya mulai hitungan 1, 2, 3. Oke, sudah Ibu.
Okay, thank you, Pak Agus. And then you can send to me. Next.
Yes, of course.
Very, Professor, may I have your permit if your information will be shared to our student in our class?
Yeah. The contact information is okay.
Only information. Thank you so much for everyone here as attendance. Thank you for your coming. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your question. Pak Edi Susilo, Pak Zainal, Prof. Mimit, and all. Pak Agus, Bu Niken, especially Bu Chandra. Thank you as a leader of the committee. Okay, I close this session with Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. And thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Bye-bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much for the lesson.
Wabarakatuh.